Hi, my name is Azzam Al-Hindi, and I am presenting the Fort Sanders Monument. This is the monument right here. It was originally built in 1914 to commemorate the attack on Fort Sanders by the rebel army in 1863. The same day that the attack happened, November 29th, is the same day that they decided to put up the statue. There's actually an inscription at the bottom that reads, "To the memory of the Confederate soldiers who fell in the assault on Fort Sanders, November 29th, 1863. And then there's a quote from a poem at the end. "Nor wreck, nor change, nor winter's blight, nor time's remorseless doom shall dim one ray of glory's light that gilds your glorious tomb." And the statue was erected by the UDC, also known as the United Daughters of Confederacy. Um, the reason why this statue was, I guess, so important was because it really highlighted how unstrategic the Confederate Army was. They would win a battle and celebrate, commemorate it, and then just continue on without planning or strategizing in any way for their next battle. So it was more, they had more men, more power than the Union, than anything. And General Grant says on several occasions during the war, Confederate President Jefferson Davis came to the relief of the Union Army by means of his superior military genius. He's obviously like joking, saying this guy is such a smartass, excuse my language, that he got over 800 men killed in under 20 minutes trying to attack Fort Sanders. So obviously that's the picture. Right here is somewhat of a picture where you can see the ditches that they dug out. There. The statue was originally donated by John Kern of the Royal Marble Company of Knoxville. He donated it as a sign of like solitude between the brothers and the sisters of the Confederacy, and told people that they were doing the South's work by erecting these statues and spreading the stories of like Confederate soldiers and their bravery throughout the South. Um, it was originally to show Confederate valor and their bravery instead of retreating during the battle, knowing that it was a losing cause, asking for a temporary peace treaty to collect their dead, and then once again attacking was considered to be very brave by other Southerners at the time. And it took about 50 years, regardless, to get a statue erected. The main point of lost cause behind this statue could be argued that it's a sign of the old ways, the Confederate values, and the slave trade, but it wasn't as romanticized as that. It was a lot more argued that this like statue specifically, these like markers, were put there to show what had happened, the pain, the strife, the death that had happened, and for people to remember that and to just remember the history of that. The Confederacy actually criticizes the Union when they're putting up the statue. It's stated that the Union knew the Confederacy were attacking and enlisted the help of over 700 slaves in order to help them build Fort Sanders and bolster their defenses. So there's really a lot you could say about this, and plenty you could argue on the fact of whether it's lost cause to the Confederate values of owning slaves, or if it was really just there to show the lives that had been lost. Back in 2017, there was a lot of protest and rage sparked around the monument, and over 3,000 people had gathered on one of the last weeks of August
to protest the statue. Well, half were protesting the statue's removal, and the other half were protesting the statue was an important part of history and should not be removed because of that. And a lot of the main argument behind that is that people don't understand the history and don't understand the pain that was caused from this battle. That's why we're excited.